it just felt like I was in this other world, like we were feeding these patients Ensure, and looking at the label of that, I was just like, there's something really wrong here. And I was talking with the dietitian, who I work closely with, and I would just be like, is this okay? Is this what we want to be feeding the patients? And
Amy, how did you find Carnivore?
well, Dave, I guess I'll start with I was born premature and I was not tolerating milk, dairy milk. So my parents fed me soy milk. Um, and I wonder if this didn't have some impact along with my standard American diet. So this is probably, a lot of us can say the same thing. Um, but it was really, I think, around teenager, high school, when I started to realize that a lot of the food that I was eating, I would look at the ingredients in the food, and I'd be like, ketchup, shouldn't it just be tomatoes in there? And then I was drinking soda, and I spilled some soda, and it was a hot summer day, and so the soda, dried on the cement, on the patio cement, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks like syrup that we put on our pancakes. And then I was down at my grandparents. My grandpa was a farmer, and I noticed all the chemicals going, into the ground, onto the crops, into the ground. And I asked my dad, well, isn't that going on our food? So I started to gain some awareness about my displeasure, with that. And I also encountered, like when I would mention it to other people, kind of this blank stare. So, but that wasn't enough to get me to like not eat all of that. So I was your typical um, college student and you're eating typical food. And then my health started to really fail, I would say my mid to late 20s. Um, and I stopped getting my period. I I also started getting a lot of GI issues. And I was working in a hospital at the time. I'm a speech therapist. And one of the physical therapists that I worked with, she said, you might have celiac disease. It sounds like you have what my mom has. So she described what her mom had, and I'd never heard of it. This was like in 2002, maybe around there. And so I did some research online. There wasn't much back then. And it seemed pretty consistent with what I was dealing with. And my dad also started kind of getting the exact same symptoms at the same time I did. And so we both went gluten-free, and that helped a lot. So we were gluten-free, and then I guess over time, I was still searching. Something wasn't right with my health. And of course, this not getting my period kind of on and off pretty young. I was trying to figure it out. And I noticed that the less carbs that I ate, the less like even the gluten-free like stuff that I would eat would still make me upset. So I noticed, that the less like wheat and grains and those types of products that I ate, the better. So then, of course, I went into all those diets. I did paleo, of course. I did. I don't know if you've heard of the body ecology diet, BED. There's a big book written on it. It was actually
The
very helpful.
bed.
Yeah, the BED, body ecology diet, the BED diet. It was actually very helpful. That was a really helpful one. The kind diet. And then I really started perking my ears up to, the plant paradox and grain brain. So I think David Perlmutter's grain brain and then the plant paradox. Really, I was really taken by both of those books and agreed with what they said. And so I was kind of on the very much plant-based diets and sustaining from grains and stuff such. And then this was fast forward to like COVID time frame when I was YouTubing something about intermittent fasting, which really helped me because I definitely struggled with binge eating. I never was able to purge or anything. I was always a tall and thin person, but that I could eat way too much, and I would eat, hyper palatable foods and lots of sugar. And so anyways, the intermittent fasting helped me really reset what felt to me like I remember thinking I haven't felt hungry in decades. Like I didn't even remember what feeling hungry felt like. So that was good. And so I was Googling something, and I think it was a Jason Fung video. And then after that video, there's Michaela Peterson, whom I didn't know at the time. And it wasn't the Joe Rogan Michaela Peterson interview. It was just Michaela, doing her talk. I think it was called like "Don't Eat This, Eat That" or something. And I listened to the video, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm not right." No, I was mad. I was like, "She can't." No, because I think inside I kind of knew she was probably right because a lot of the things she had healed I dealt with, right? I mean, I hadn't gone to the extreme Michaela had, but I definitely had dealt with a lot of the different GI things and, arthritis and psoriasis. And I've dealt with a lot of those things. But I just was like, I was so deep into that, going to the farmer's market every weekend, buying just 2 large bags of produce, eating it every week. I just I could not hear this. I was like, no. So I didn't. And it was probably a year after that, maybe in 2021, sometime when I think after I clicked on that video, other videos would populate, about carnivore, and I'd watch here and there. And so then I think I started eating more meat at that time. And then about a year, like I said, a year after that, so maybe summer of 2021, I started to really listen and really think about it. And I noticed whenever I would stay on that diet, I felt so much better. My mood was so much better. Symptoms improved so much. So, I mean, and then since then, I've been trying to eat as close as I can to carnivore. I'm sure the lion diet is probably the best thing for me. Although I really struggle with just not enough variety. I try to not cheat, but I'll go to I have a social events quite frequently, and I will just do the best that I can at those and like try to eat the more meat, but I'll have a little bit of fruit or guacamole, or I'll kind of allow for some of that. But another thing I wanted to mention, because when I was working in the hospital back when I was trying to figure out my celiac thing, I was going to mention when I went in to get like worked up for this GI thing. It's a common story where the internal medicine physician did all these labs and everything looked fine, and but I had severe adult acne. I had depression, which I'd never had ever in my life. And then I had all these GI things, and then I wasn't having my period. And she's like, "No, you check out just fine. You're just depressed." So she was going to put me on an antidepressant, of course, which I didn't do. And then when I went to get diagnosed or to talk to the GI doc about celiac, when I mentioned a friend thought I might have celiac, it was interesting. His response was just like, pretty sure he didn't know what celiac was back then. I don't know how much they learned, but this was, like I said, in 2002-ish. But you could tell he was like, Oh, and then he did do he did the scope thing where they take a piece of your intestine and then they um, anyways, they said I didn't have it. So then, which I had already been gluten-free for quite some time. So um, then I went to Chipotle and got this big burrito thinking, yay, I don't have celiac. I can eat whatever I want. So then I got really sick after I did that. So then I just realized I think I do have it or I have close to it. And my father has been diagnosed with it. So, but I remember being in the hospital and just watching. I was also starting to put together, just the amount of um, obese patients, and it just felt like I was in this other world, like we were feeding these patients Ensure, and looking at the label of that, I was just like, there's something really wrong here. And I was talking with the dietitian, who I work closely with, and I would just be like, is this okay? Is this what we want to be feeding the patients? And, everyone's just doing their thing and not thinking about anything, in my opinion, and I started becoming more and more kind of disenfranchised from what I was doing there at the hospital. And I ended up leaving that job because I just didn't really, it's kind of a world I didn't understand what was going on. It didn't resonate with me anymore. So,
Yeah. Wow. So just to clarify, it basically been since about summer 2021.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and so since then, what has turned around for you? Have you seen changes as far as depression period, things like that?
Yeah. Well, I, yes, if I ever, so psoriasis was an issue. And so let's say that is resolved. Um, that has been amazing. Mood, depression, yeah. I mean, adult cystic acne is no longer my mood. I did go off the diet and I had a lot of sugar maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I was in such a bad mood. I was so angry. I was just very irritable, right? It was like, at first it was like, what's happening? And then I'm like, oh, well, you ate a bunch of sugar or you ate a bunch of things that you don't usually eat. So yeah, my mood definitely better. Um, and psoriasis, non-existent. Adult acne, non-existent. And then GI, I mean, the amount of flatulence that I used to have when I was eating a lot of fiber and carbs too, sugar, was just uncomfortable. So that has really resolved too. Like aches, I would say joint pain, that was really significant before. Thicker hair, whiter teeth, gums have gotten better as well.
Overall, what's the main thing that's kept you on this path?
Well, I think just trying to be my best person, knowing that I don't want to head down that path of like going to the hospital, going to the doctor for anything, getting cancer. I feel like, I mean, I, okay, so my dad has Crohn's disease, and I know that I could definitely be there tomorrow if I wanted to. So I think that's another thing that, like, it just helps me stay focused, knowing that I don't want to deal with all the medical issues that he's dealing with. That really frightens me. I don't want to have to spend my time getting expensive treatments, going to the Mayo Clinic like he does and get all of that, you know, that I'm not interested at all in that. And I think some people seem to, I mean, I don't know if they intend to be interested in that, but it's almost like they talk about their doctoring, and it's almost like a social hour or something. Like they're going to go, they're going again for their treatment. And um, I don't know if they're not considering or thinking about that there's another way. There are other options.
Mm. Well, I think a lot of people think there just is no other way. I think we seem to have we seem to have got to the point that we just assume that we're a flawed species and we're destined to be sick, and the
Hmm.
only people that can heal us are doctors and pharmaceuticals.
Right.
Mm.
Right. And I guess I found too, working in that setting for a while, um, again, and I do appreciate doctors and what they do and what they contribute. And, we need them for sure. But as far as like, I remember just mentioning maybe other options for things or other ideas, and it just felt like they were almost robotic in what they were doing, and just not they didn't. So, I mean, again, that's not a new statement. We've heard this before, but I found that as well when I was in that setting.
So, how is your sleep? Did your sleep change at all?
Now, that's something, I mean, that's variable. So, what I was able to do is, so I was on bioidentical hormones for quite some time because never, I was in premature menopause, or not premature. I went through menopause really early. And so um, my OBGYN did put me on bioidentical hormones, and it was my choice, but I wanted to do that, and it helped me a lot. Well, then I was having a lot of insurance issues with it, and I was also wanting to wean off of those anyway. And so I weaned off the bioidentical hormone treatment. And so then my sleep was really kind of this was within the last year. My sleep was kind of messed up after that. And so I'm still trying to figure that out. Um, I feel like I do much better without carbs, yet I sleep better with some carbs. Yet I don't want too many carbs because I feel like when I have too many carbs, then the pains come back and the aches come back and so I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm not quite sure if I just am not being strict enough with my carnivore, or because I do cheat here and there. So I mean, I'm wondering, is that it, or is it that I should include a little bit of carbs, but then sometimes I go overboard and I eat like maybe two apples instead of one apple, or two bananas. And so I'm I'm not sure, but I'm still playing around with that.
So, what's a typical day of eating like for you?
Well, I usually do bone broth in the morning, and I put a little coconut, it's called coconut nectar in there. So it's just like, because the cream, the heavy whipping cream doesn't go so well for me. So it's just a little flavor in there. And then after, that's for breakfast. And then usually I have some lunch. I usually do 2 meals a day. So um, maybe a couple of 2 or 3 hamburger patties, um, or a small steak or something for lunch. And then dinner might be this probably the same. Um, I think I can tolerate eggs, but not too many. And I do just the egg yolks. I can't tolerate the egg white. So I just do the yolks. And again, I can't do that like every day. Every couple times a week, maybe I can tolerate that. If not, I get some of my psoriasis kind of comes back. And then bacon. I'll eat some bacon. And again, I can't do that very frequently because the same issue will happen um, with if I eat too much bacon, because I would eat it every day otherwise. Um, and yeah, I do salmon, quite a bit of salmon. Um, and yeah, some sardines and those types. Yeah, sardines are delicious. Some
Mhm.
liver. I eat liver maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. But a lot of red meat. I'd say a lot of ground beef and a lot of like chuck steak.
Right.
I'm trying to
And
reduce. I'm trying to reduce the amount that I eat a little bit because I feel like I could lose a little bit of weight. I feel like
right.
yeah.
Okay. Um, and has anyone commented on this? Like, why are you basically eating hamburger patties and steak every day? What's going on?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the people in my life who've known me kind of know that I've always been a little bit just always doing something a little bit different, but definitely this one would take the cake, the carnivore cake, of course. um, and yeah, people don't seem very interested. Like I try to like if somebody's really complaining about an issue or I had a friend's husband was dealing with seizures and I mentioned, I sent him a video about that, about somebody curing themselves with carnivore. And I'm not going to push that person to do it, but not interested. And then another person dealing with very severe mental health issues. And I mentioned that. I didn't send a video on that one, but and you know, not real interested. And I've had some conversations and nobody's real interested. The only person that I found that's quite interested is my boyfriend. He'll eat carnivore with me, which is wonderful, which is really great. And he finds a lot of changes, a lot of positive changes with that too. He was complaining about, just not being able to lose the weight. He was a little bit overweight and saying that, oh, it's just the age I'm at. This is just gonna, and he was pretty easily lost the weight once he started doing carnivore. He doesn't do it all the time either, but I would say he's meat based for sure. So that was good. So he's listened, so to speak, and notices a lot of positive benefits.
Oh, nice. And how about your father? Have you ever said to him, "Why don't you give this a try with for your Crohn's?"
Yeah. Oh man, would I love him to try that? Oh, well, not really, because I mean, he knows what I'm doing. And like when I go over to their house for holidays or whatever, they cook carnivore for me and we all eat together that meal. And I know him so well. And I feel like he's not really willing. Like I would like him to just ask me because I don't think telling him, we've had our differences in many areas and I think that I don't think he's open to it, unfortunately. And I think his Crohn's is actually progressing. I mean, and so I wish he would consider it.
Yeah. But yeah, you can't. Sometimes it's better to just leave it alone unless they do approach you. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Do you know those Remicade treatments? I think he goes every 6 weeks, I believe. And or maybe even it's more frequent now. I think they're $30,000 per treatment, and that yeah, it's. I think he's clearly not the only person getting this treatment in the U.S., but
Wow.
it's like it's like an. I think you go to the dialysis area of the hospital and they put this in you. I've never observed it, but this is my understanding. And you sit on this chair for quite a while and you get this treatment and it's 30 grand per treatment. And
And what's it called? Remicade.
Remicade is the drug. It's a drug. And I don't know I should have looked it up a little bit more, but it's supposed to help, and I just, my gut is he's still really struggling because he's really not thriving, that's for sure. And he's already had a resection. He's had a surgery um, maybe a handful of years ago, 5, 6 years ago. And yeah, so he could completely turn his life around if he would do this, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So, where does this go for you from here? More strict, less strict, pretty much the same?
Oh, Dave, I'm not sure. I mean, I really feel like I need to be more strict, but I'm just not sure that, I don't know. I don't know if it's my addiction, because know that addiction to carbs, or is it my not willing to, because I don't want to give up my social life with my friends, and hanging out and going to social events with them. And there are times that I'll go and I will just, like everybody does, eat beforehand. And I just, I struggle with that a lot. So, I guess overall, I'm happy. I'm definitely happy with where I'm at. I mean, but I think it could improve. I mean, I know it could improve. So meat based is definitely better than not meat based. And then I think, as far as the rest of it goes, I'm still trying to play around with how many carbs, and should I introduce a little bit of fruit to sleep better. I'm still kind of working on that. But like right now, I have not been fasting much except for the breakfast, actually since I only eat the 2 meals a day, but I'd like to do a little bit more fasting too, because I do feel like that would help just lose a few pounds too. So,
So, if someone was to seek your advice for, how to get started with a carnivore diet, what would you tell them?
I mean, just eat whatever appeals to you, as far as in the carnivore realm, like the whatever meats appeal to you, whatever seafood appeals to you, and include a lot of fat, because I've actually found too that that's awesome. The fat is very important. Lots of ghee and lots of I do find with like some cheeses, and I think that helps a lot to provide some variety. So, and also just, if you're not sure about it, just reduce the other things, reduce the carbs, reduce the different grains, reduce, and just kind of make your way that over to the carnivore diet, and make note of how it makes you feel.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Just keeping note of how you feel at particular
Mhm.
times. Yeah.
I think that's what I'm really trying to do, intuitive everything, instead of like um, trying to follow a certain plan. Or, I mean, of course I'm trying to follow a certain plan, which is carnivore, but as far as like this or that, or all those different like there's a lot of biohacking going on, which I did the sauna today, so it's not like I don't do some of that, but there's so many little things that you can get caught up in, like, oh, did I do this enough? Did I not do this enough? Did I eat too much of this? And yes, we're trying to figure it out, yet I'm just trying to listen to my body through all of it, and just what works for me. Because again, I do think, you can get caught up in what's working for other people, but what works for me in my body is what I'm trying to really focus in on, and the feeling that my body's telling me all of these your body will tell you exactly if you listen.
Um, so, Amy, if someone wants to reach out to you, do you have any social media?
No, I mean, I do have, well, Instagram. It's just my name, A_C_Floden, Floden. And you can sure reach out to me there. So, I mean, I don't have anything carnivore-ish, but you can certainly reach out to me there and ask any questions.
Awesome. So I'll link to that below. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story, Amy. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for interviewing me, Dave. It was my pleasure.